host, Ashley Marie, and it's great to have you guys tuning in to support the show today. If you guys have not liked, subscribed, and followed, we really appreciate the support on that. The Masters is quickly approaching us as the snow falls outside. We're in North Carolina right now. It is snowing pretty heavily. People are gearing up for the Masters, a very prestigious and sought after opportunity for golfers around the world. Don't worry, you're not going to be hearing anything golf wise from me because I have barely been able to get it off the ground. But you do want to hear it from somebody who has mastered lag putting and the techniques behind it, a very avid golfer. Bob Labbe is here with us today and super excited to have him as a guest.
Ashley Marie, I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Golfing is definitely a very technical game, and you mastered that quite a bit. How did you get into and what sparked your interest in golf? Because some people just like to do it as recreational, but you got more into it as a profession. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I spent my whole life in the air pollution control business, serving power plants and steel mills and all that kind of stuff. So my partner and I, we both loved the game of golf, but we were awfully busy in our business. But by 1996, we sold our second business and decided to retire. And we agreed that we would begin to learn how to play the game of golf because we loved it. And we played it with all of our salesmen during the years, but we weren't very good. So we went off to professional PGA, professional golf school, and learned all the strokes of the game in 1996 and began to play 3 to 5 times a week and practice equally number of times. So we took up the game of golf and our score became very good very quickly, except I had a big problem. I had a hard time judging long distance putting, and I would either overhit the ball and it would go too far, or I would baby the ball and it would go too short. And I was 3 and 4 putting a lot of greens, which caused me to putt 40 to 44 putts per 18-hole round, which is totally unacceptable. Where I was scoring up in the mid to high 90s when I should have been scoring in the mid 80s to high 80s. And so I had to find a solution to that problem. And that's why I began studying the idea of quantitative putting and what my book is all about, putting by the numbers. It's about a quantitative method of lag putting, and it took me a long time to develop it, but it really works.
That's really awesome. And something for those who don't know what lag putting is, can you explain to us a little bit about what that is? I know it's something that a lot of times amateurs look over, right? They think hitting a ball really hard is the ultimate goal to get on the green, and they end up overshooting. So tell us a little bit about what is lag putting? Why is that important?
Well, as you probably know, in 18 holes of golf, most golf courses are par 72. And in 18 holes, if you two putt every green, which is standard, that's 36 strokes. Putting is potentially 50% of the game. So if you're a good putter, you're likely to be a very good golfer. And so if you're a bad putter, you're never going to play very well. And that was my problem starting out. So long distance putting, lag putting is just what it says, very long distance putting. You can putt on long distance on the green, the fringe that's around the green, the fairway, and the first cut of rough. And what I determined through my development of the quantitative method of lag putting is a linear way to be able to retract your putter a certain distance from the ball and stroking through it to know how far it's going to travel. And the accuracy of that is what keeps you either letting the ball go in the hole from 60, 70 feet away or getting close so you two putt. And that indeed is what makes you a really good golfer. So consequently, it took me, started writing this book back in 1997 by way of notes. And I kept putting them in my golf bag. And I kept having my friends tell me, hey, you need to write a book about this because they see what I do. And it was pretty successful and pretty accurate. But not until 2021, nearly 25 years into my efforts, I had all these notes in my library and I pulled them out and I decided to write a book because I was in the midst of retiring from my third company. And so I did. And that is how the book got written. And it's a very accurate linear way of long distance putting using force friction. And it's developed on the idea, Edward Stimpson developed the stimp meter back in 1935 at Oakmont.
Yeah.
And they use the stimp meter for the speed of greens in most tournaments these days around the world.
That's really impressive. So are these notes kind of like, I guess, scientific type mathematical equations and projections and things? Is that a lot of the notes that you had?
I'm an engineer from Georgia Tech, and yeah, I'm a technical guy. And, and yet, I knew that if it was going to be useful on the golf course, it had to be simplified and it had to be something anybody and everybody could do. So, simply stated, this quantitative method of lag putting, I boiled down to an arithmetic or arithmetic process. It's a force friction concept. The green has a certain friction, the fringe has a certain friction, the fairway, first cut of rough, they all have different frictions. So what you do in my method, which you develop your individual power factor, okay? And downstairs, I started practicing this on my carpets, kind of like a Berber carpet downstairs. And I learned that for every inch of retraction of my putter and stroking through, the ball would travel about 11 feet. My wife would do the same thing with her individual power factor, and her ball would travel about 7.5 feet. So what you do is you learn that you retracting your putter 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and because it's linear, the ball will travel linear distance per the amount of force you put on the ball. And so that's where it becomes very, very easily accomplished by arithmetic. And you can do it with the friction of the green, the fringe, the fairway, or the first cut of rough. Just add them together, and that makes you the compound answer to how many inches you retract your putter before you stroke through the ball. And that gets you either in the hole or very close to the hole virtually every time. And that's what
Wow, mathematical equation. That's great.
it's very simple though. It's got to be simple so you can do it in your head when you're on the golf course. And that's what my book does. It takes physics and engineering mechanics and turns them into simple arithmetic. And if you get a copy of my book, all you have to do is actually go to my website, boblabbe.com, and I have two free video tutorials, one in home practice and one on the golf course practice. You can watch my videos and see exactly what I do. And if you like what I'm doing, then for $5 to $10, you can pick up my book, an ebook, softback, hardback copy, or audio copy, and then read my book. And if you practice my method 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week for 6 weeks, you'll know if my method is for you.
Tell us a little bit about your stats on the golf course, potentially PGA
Yeah.
Tour kind of focus, huh?
Well, no, I'm not at the level of the PGA Touring pros by any means. Those guys live in a different world.
They do.
I'm just an amateur golfer, okay? And here I am, nearly 82 years old, and I have a 7 handicap, which is compared to what the pro golfers do, even the club pros and the touring pros, they're all in a different world of excellence. So I'm just an average amateur golfer with a 7 handicap. And the reason I have a 7 handicap is because of my putting has become so improved by using the quantitative method of lag putting that I've developed. And I tell anybody that is just a amateur golfer, recreational golfer, if you use my method of putting and you're not a particularly good long distance putter, you will improve your golf game at least 4 to 5 strokes around. And that's a lot in this game. And you can't do it more inexpensively than buying a $5 to $10 book.
Yeah, no, I was even thinking, I was like, there's so much technical equipment out there, and AI is starting to take over in golf a little bit as well. So you don't need all of that. It's just a good old fashioned mathematical equation and your mind, which it is a very mental game. So this kind of speaks to that too. But yeah, this breaks it down pretty simply and something that everybody can do and enjoy. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of neat, there's 30 million golfers in the United States and there's 300 million golfers worldwide. On top of that, there's 100 miniature golfers worldwide. So there's a lot of people that are trying to putt, okay? And so whether you're playing this method that I've created is works on any golf course anywhere in the world. Because what you do, you go to the golf course 30 minutes before your tee time. You take three balls and you put them on the green and you practice to see how far they travel for a 3-inch retraction or a 6-inch retraction. You do that on the green, the fringe, the fairway, and the first cut of rough. You write that on your scorecard. And then when you go out to play your round of golf, you know exactly what arithmetic you need to use. If you're 75 feet away from the green and on the first cut of rough, you know exactly what to do. And that's part of this methodology is that you go to the green or close to the green. You don't have to be on the green. You can be just close to the green. And you have a plan when you get there, exactly what you're going to do. And most golfers don't have that. This methodology makes you have a plan when you get there. And gosh, when you have a plan and then you execute it, makes you really happy.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong at all. What are some myths that you see in golf a lot of times that you wish would disappear?
Well, that old saying is drive for show and putt for dough. There's nothing more true than that because putting, as I said earlier in our conversation, can be as much as 50% of the game. But do you know anybody that practices putting 50% of the time? I don't. People practice the woods, the irons, the long hitting ball because really hitting the ball off the tee and hitting it 300 yards is really very exciting, makes you feel very good. But there's nothing better than putting a ball 75 feet from the hole and sinking it. That makes you even feel better.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
so consequently, I think people that are just beginning to play the game or early in the game, they need to recognize how important putting is. Because with my methodology, you don't have to practice the long putts anymore because you know exactly what you're going to do. You're arithmetically going to determine how far you have to remove your putter from the ball and stroke through it. And then your ball, usually my objective is to have your second putt within 3 to 5 foot of the hole. And then what it does for you, it only requires that you practice short putts in that 3 to 5 foot radius, which gives you a lot more time to practice your long putts and your other clubs.
That's amazing. Yeah, you definitely have some amazing experience, and you can tell because you definitely know what you're talking about when it comes to that. And there's a huge push on people are always like, "Oh yeah, I want to get my swing in. I want to be able to hit that ball really far." And I hear a huge push for that. But you're right, it does come down to the putting side because that is the final game, especially if it's taking off a couple strokes, which is huge in golfing. That can make a big difference. So, totally
Mhm.
smart.
The short game in golf, that anything that you're using a chipping or pitching wedge and the putter, the short game in golf is you watch the pro tour, you watch these guys on Sunday. The best golfers on the pro tour have the best short games. They're great putters and they're great pitchers and great chippers. And if you're great with the short game, the mistakes you make with the long game are easily made up in your score.
How much time a week or a day should somebody practice putting, especially with your method? You said a couple weeks to see how it played out, but how much should they do that like per day?
What I suggest people do is look at my free videos. You can go to my website, boblabbe.com. I have two free videos. One's a 11-minute in-home practice video on your in-home indoor carpet. And then the other is a 23-minute on the golf course practice video. And it shows you how to putt on the green, the fringe, the first cut of rough, and the fairway. And then after you watch those videos, if you think that what I'm showing you, you kind of, then I would suggest you buy one of my books, which are from $5 to $10, and they come in ebook, softback, hardback, and audiobooks. And then after you do that, after you read my book, then I suggest you practice my method 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week for 6 weeks. And at the end of that period, you will know whether you like what I'm telling you to do and if you're good at doing it. And you take that method to the golf course, and I will guarantee you, you will improve your game by 4 to 5 strokes, if not more.
Super cool. It sounds like a no-brainer. You guys should definitely go and check out the book. Putting by numbers, what is something that you would also recommend for staying physically able to golf consistently throughout your lifetime?
I think staying active and exercising regularly. I think one of the things that I wish I had done more of, I would recommend everybody stretch when they get up every day and do 10 or 15 minutes of stretching, because that really helps your body to be able to be mobile and flexible. And having a flexible body is, in my opinion, essential to play any sport, particularly the game of golf. I believe in staying mentally and physically active, regardless of how old you are, exercising as much as possible.
I appreciate you sharing all of that, Bob. Have you ever been to the Masters?
I have been there 4 different times. I wish I could get an invite to play the course, because I'd love to putt those greens because I know they're really fast. My wife and I have been to the Masters 4 times since 2009, and it's a lovely place. It's just one of the most phenomenal places in the golfing world.
It's very magical experience. What is any last words of wisdom or advice that you would share with people that are getting into golf or have been in it for a little while and just need some different tips?
I think we talked before we got on this discussion was, if you're a brand new golfer, you need to start out the right way. And when I started playing golf in 1996, I went to Maggie Valley, North Carolina, and went to their PGA school and spent 4 days with pros teaching me how to execute every stroke from the tee to the fairway to the bunkers, close to the green, all the different clubs, and the putter. The only one I wasn't very good with was the long distance putter, and that's why I had to come up with this method. But if you get you get a good by getting good teaching from a PGA professional, because they know what they're talking about with regard to how you should set up and stroke the ball with all the different clubs. Golf is all about practice, focus, keeping a quiet mind when you're getting ready to stroke the ball, and with intention. And it is, in my mind, the most difficult athletic game on the planet, because you would think hitting a ball that's sitting stationary on the ground would be rather easy, but unfortunately, it's not. Some of the great baseball players of all time, like John Smoltz, they've become excellent scratch players in golf, but they can tell you, as great a baseball player, how difficult the game of golf is. But golf is so much fun, and you meet such nice people. It's just a wonderful place to spend a good portion of your life.
Yeah, and great exercise, great way to get outside. And like you said, you meet some cool people in golf. It's a fun community.
It certainly is. Certainly is.
Thanks so much, Bob. I really appreciate you for taking the time to share that with us today and your expertise. Guys, definitely reach out and go to Bob Labbe. I've got that popping up here on the bottom of the screen. Tips and also his book is there as well for you guys to find. But thanks so much, Bob.
I appreciate you having me, and it was a good discussion, and I look forward to coming back sometime.
Absolutely. Would love to have you come back on for sure.